I wanted to ask you about your approach to writing dialogue too, because I've sort of noticed in reading your book since Lesson Zero, it seems to become a little less, the conversations between characters seem to be a little bit less linear in terms of two people having a conversation but not necessarily kind of even directly answering what the other person's saying. Have you noticed a sort of a change in how you use dialogue as a device in your books?
It's interesting. Again, the narrator decides a lot of things. And I think the dialogue in each of the books is really dependent upon who the narrator is. And I think the dialogue in Imperial Bedrooms is very different from, say, the dialogue in Lunar Park or the dialogue in Glamorama, which is very chatty and, seemingly endlessly about nothing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, one of the people that I was very interested in, the writer that I was most interested in while writing this was Raymond Chandler.
Yeah.
And I liked the kind of hard-boiled rhythm of his dialogue, which I wanted to replicate, but you really can't replicate in this day and age without it sounding kind of silly.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound silly in Raymond Chandler because you realize the time when it was written, and also that it was one of the first of its kind, and you really can't replicate it, but you can kind of make an attempt. I also, Clay's a screenwriter, and I think this is very much a screenwriter's book. It's very to the point, they're very short scenes, the dialogue is very clipped, and that was a big note that I had in my mind when I was working on it, that the book should almost play out like a script plays out or like a movie plays out. Also, hence how short it became. I mean, I thought it was going to be a longer book, and then I realized as I was shaping it that no, this is going to be a book written by a screenwriter, and that informed a lot of the choices that were made. I think that everything I've told you is sort of a reflection of how the dialogue works for me when I'm writing the book.
Yeah. The plot, to me, echoed slightly of Glamorama in the sense that, there's obviously a great sort of conspiracy or plot afoot, yet certain details are slightly elusive and seem to be held back, and I felt the same in reading this. There was, you're kind of given an impression of what's going on, but it's never clearly defined. By doing this, you're sort of suggesting that in the grand scheme of things, these specific details don't matter, or is it more just a case of, leaving certain things to the reader to figure out for themselves?
This is Clay's choice. I mean, I think I know exactly what's going on. Clay doesn't want to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
That is part of his problem. And he keeps misinterpreting everything as being about him, which is what also I thought the novel was about. It was a portrait of a raging narcissist who wants whatever he wants, no matter really what the cost is, or to other people as well around him. So he's interested in what he's interested in, and it's really not. He could, if he wanted to, I think, piece the entire thing together. But he's the narrator of the book, and he's obviously not that interested in it. He's interested in his gratification, and he's interested in getting what he wants. So that precludes finding out, or even wanting to find out, what the larger mystery is. So I think, a reader, it's like, I also felt the way, the problem with Chandler, when you get to the unraveling of the mystery, when you get to the answer to the mystery, Chandler often didn't even know what the answer was. It wasn't that answer to the mystery was what was so interesting. It was kind of the ride toward, the ride through the mystery.
Yeah.
The answers are usually boring. Logic ruins fiction. And I think, I think it goes back to American Psycho in a way. People always want to ask me, well, did it happen or didn't it happen?
Yeah.
And my response is, well, is it more interesting if you know?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. So that was something that I was conscious of in Imperial Bedrooms, which was, depending on the narrator, listen, if it was a different narrator, everything might have been answered, and we might have known everything that was going on and pieced the whole thing together. But because it's Clay, I just don't think that was a possibility.
I mean, obviously, in Lesson Zero, it was dealing with the children of sort of, I suppose, the film industry, and those allusions to the parents who are the producers and things like that. And in this book, I mean, it seems like they're sort of grown into their parents in a way. Is part of this satire sort of your perception that Hollywood is sort of self-perpetuating in that sense? It's sort of cyclic?
Um, no, I wasn't thinking of that. But that's interesting. Can I leave it at that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, sex plays a big part in all of your work, and there are sex scenes in most of your books. As a writer, I wanted to ask you: do you deliberate with the language that you use in your sex scenes any more than you would another scene in the book?
No, I actually don't. And also, I think that the sex scenes in the novel are, again, a reflection, and are told to in the way that the narrator would describe them. I think the way, Clay is not that open about the sex scenes, not necessarily in the way that, Victor Ward high on ecstasy during a threesome would be, or Patrick Bateman's porno descriptions of his sexual escapades with hookers. It's, or the way the college kids kind of talk about their sexual fumbling around and rules of attraction. It really depends on the narrator and where they are and how they make a lot of the decisions in a novel and how a novel is going to be told, and that holds true for the sex scenes as well. The thing, obviously, you don't want a sex scene to sound particularly foolish, and a lot of writers, I think, are really bad at sex scenes because they tend to decorate them, and I think that the decorative quality makes them funny.
Yeah.
Makes them seem like purple and lame, and I think the facts of the sex scene itself are kind of enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I also feel that way about a lot of the writing in general, that, you kind of should just stick to the facts, and that tends to be more interesting anyway.
Yeah. A number of your books have sort of drawn links between sex and violence as well, and then there were moments towards the end of Imperial Bedrooms that sort of blur the lines between the two. What is it about that exploration between violence and sex that sort of still interests you as a writer?
There isn't any. I'm not particularly interested in the dynamic between sex and violence. I suppose to a degree it was in American Psycho, I guess a little bit.
I suppose there's a scene where Clay takes two young prostitutes away to a sort of a house towards the end of Imperial Bedrooms.
Yeah. It's a feeling. I don't know. It felt right. It felt like, okay, this is at the point in the novel in which he would do this.
Yeah.
And it was an emotional decision. The question you're asking demands an almost, professorial answer.
Yeah.
Or a very smart critic could answer that question. As a writer of the books, I don't know.
Okay.
It happens. It's happened in my work, but I really don't have a prepared plan as to why that's true and why I have come back to that a couple of times in my work. Sure, it's even there a little bit in Lesson Zero, and there's, definitely in American Psycho. I don't know in Glamorama. I guess not really in Lunar Park. Well, in The Informers, definitely. There's a couple of stories that delve into that as well. I don't know. Why do you suppose? Maybe I'm just a sick bastard. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't think I am, but when you ask a question like that, I begin to worry.
No, nothing to worry about. Obviously, Imperial Bedrooms again employs this present tense sort of way of storytelling and narrating that you have.
It was fun. One of the things that sold me on doing this was that I could go back to that minimalism of Lesson Zero, which I had not gone back to in a long time. And, writing these paragraph-long sentences that start at one place and then end up someplace completely different is, it's almost like doing a crossword puzzle in a way. It's a technical challenge, write them and have them flow in the right way, but also, it's very fun too. And that was something that I was very much engaged by. I was going back to that kind of minimalism and also the run-on sentences, and I don't know, that style was very fun to go back to.
Yeah. When you're writing, does it basically come out as this one stream of conscious, and then do you go back and tinker with it, or do you sort of let it be as it was?
No, totally. You tinker with it all the time.
Yeah.
But it depends. I mean, there are certain times when it doesn't, and there are certain times when it does, and you're always tinkering with it, and you're always going back to it up until when it's locked, at the publishers, and you can't go back to it anymore. I mean, I was tinkering with it in the galleys, and the second pass of the galleys. And that's why I can't ever read my books once they are published, because there will always be choices you see that you've made that you would like to take back. A sentence there, or a detail there, why did I do that there? And it's just, the book is done, and there's no going back to it and changing it.
Yeah. Do you feel that Imperial Bedrooms is a book that could be easily adapted into a film?
Well, sure it could be. Will it be is the question, and I don't really think so. I mean, the movie culture has changed enormously since Less Than Zero was made into a film and was a huge weekend release by 20th Century Fox. I mean, the idea of that movie being made now and released in as many theaters on a weekend that Less Than Zero is not possible anymore.
Yeah.
Less Than Zero would have been an independent film now. Well, the independent film is dead, so I don't know really where it would be.
Yeah.
I did this Q&A at the Los Angeles Book Festival a week and a half ago, where someone asked me this question, and I said, no, I don't think 20th Century Fox would never make this movie now, and they wouldn't make this movie now, but maybe Fox Searchlight, which is the independent wing of 20th Century Fox, might do it. And I should never have said that, because suddenly it's all over, the internet. Is Fox Searchlight going to do Less Than Zero sequel? And I don't think they're going to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, hey, if Robert Downey Jr. said, I want to be in it, that he could probably get it made. Yeah. But otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah. I also read that Roger Avery apparently has the rights to Glamorama. I just wanted to ask you if you know of whether that will be in production at some point.
Well, Roger's in prison.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So, I don't know really what that means in terms of moving forward with the project.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to wait until he gets out.
Sure.
Start recouping and thinking about this.
Yeah.
Again, the movie culture changed a lot from the time Roger purchased those rights to, it's just to make, I really don't know how you would do that movie as a big mainstream studio film. No. You could do a lo-fi version of it, and maybe do it with, do it on digital, handheld, just like on the cuff. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going, where's it going? There was talk, I met with a guy who directs a lot of TV who has been following the Glamour Opera project for a long time, and maybe do it as a mini-series. But again, who is going to pay for that to be done?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I imagine it would be challenging. I mean, it is so much going on in that book, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know if that's... I mean, it would be great, but I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Sure.